Here we were in the early stages of a pandemic, something that none of us had ever experienced in our collective lifetime. I knew we'd be back on our feet at some point, but in the interim, I still wanted to speak to audiences, but particularly to assistant principals. Knowing that my social media platform was large and was closely associated with my work, on the first Saturday in May 2020, I launched the virtual AP Leadership Academy. The intent was 18 weeks only, but as many of you know, we are years in with no ending in sight. We are now the AP and New Principals Academy, as many of the assistant principals from the original virtual AP Leadership Academy became principals. If you're new to the platform, welcome. If you're a leadership veteran, this platform continues to be relevant for veterans in principal leadership, assistant principal leadership, and aspiring school leaders. With that said, it's time for today's session. And we are live. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to week 326 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in early this morning. We got Dot McKeever Jeter, retired principal Dot McKeever Jeter's checking in, and I see that you too. We got that right this week. We got Grace Castaneda, Kyle, Texas. We got Constance Sherrod, Pearl, Mississippi. We got Dr. Robin Snowden Harambe from Newport News, Virginia, but normally in Fresno, California. Let me see here. She said family commemorating the 292nd year of our ancestors arriving on a slave ship from Ghana to these shores. I hear that. I need to be there too. We got my man, Dr. Donovan Smalls. And he got a number 2. I don't know if that means a second or not. I think it does. He said, let's go. We got Chancellor Davis, Las Vegas, Nevada in the 702. We got Trisha Ebel. Man, I hope I didn't mess that up. She said, you saw me in Orlando and you were amazing. Oh, man, I appreciate that, man. Trisha Ebel said I was amazing in Orlando, man. I was in Orlando twice. Was that the ASCD or was that the NAESP? Right, I appreciate you. AP Patrick Lawrence, Connecticut. Takesha High, Virginia. Principal Otis Kitchen II, Tampa, Florida. He's in the building. Lysandra Brackens, North Carolina. Nadir Coley, Newark, New Jersey. Here you go. Newark, New Jersey. Negro League team. Eagles, baby. Eagles. Where we at? Vanessa Zeskin, Connecticut. Nadira Coley, I said that already. I said Robin Snowden. Dr. Sonia Matthew, Maryland. NBCT National Board Certified Teacher. Let's go. We got Chad White, Virginia. John Herricks, Denton, Texas. Mrs. Yolanda McKinney down in Texas. Stacy L. Joy, Los Angeles, California. Where we at? Principal Elisa Rivera is in Rhode Island. We got Dr. Rella Hicks in Augusta, Georgia. There's Marsha Poe in San Diego. There's Donna Medina, as we know as Donna Gant. And where we at? Charlena Hottie is in Norfolk, Virginia. Jacqueline Harriet is in Nova Scotia, Canada. Where we at? And y'all make sure you go to her page and check out the conference that she's got coming up in October. A lot of the fam will be there, notably Dr. Sheikah Houston. I know she just announced it along with Dr. Tammy Taylor. I've seen an ad with Dr. Onae Chapman as well, and I'm sure many others will be up there. I can't make it. It's birthday week, y'all. You know I be on the islands on the birthday, man. But we gonna figure it out one year. Alexa Irvin, it might be Alexia Irvin, Brookhaven, Mississippi. I'm getting ready to shut it down, y'all. We got a lot to talk about here. I see Tony McClenny. I see you, Tony. Tony McClenny, Battle Creek, Michigan. Where we at? David Bell, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Principal Josh Tovar, part of the Fantastic Four. I'm glad you wrote that, man, because sometimes I forget to say it in the beginning, the intro, and I say it at the end. But while it's there in front of me, hey, y'all, don't forget, it's 4 of us, 4 platforms, right? So 10 o'clock, this is all Facebook and YouTube. 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt. So the name I say is the same name when you go to either of those channels. So 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, Facebook, YouTube. 10:30, Create and Educate, Facebook, YouTube. AP New Principals Academy, hosted by myself, Facebook, YouTube. Let me change that sequence though. YouTube, Facebook, right? And then we call that Super Saturday. Man, three powerful platforms, not overlapping, by the way. And that's important, not overlapping. We all got our own brand in terms of what we talk about, right? But so much to talk about as it relates to school leadership, right? And sometimes district leadership, right? And sometimes other aspects of education, right? The classroom, obviously, when we talk about instructional leadership. And then we roll over to Sunday, and then we call it the Fantastic Four because we have Principal Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno, right? I've been missing it like every weekend because I've been traveling every Sunday, right? And Josh, that includes tomorrow. I'll be traveling to Montana, so I'm definitely gonna miss you tomorrow too. I try to catch some of the rewind, whatever we want to call it on streaming. As I try to catch as much as I can. Let me see if there's any more. One more name, a couple more names. Bobby Joe Stewart, Bay Area, so that's out there, San Francisco, Oakland. And then I'll end it with the Queen of the Castle. All 25 rooms, baby. Let's go, y'all. Let me say formally to everybody, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 326. Sometimes you may have noticed when I first came on, I had to look at my notes on that because it's like unbelievable, right? That I'm at 326 consecutively. And sometimes I just got to look, man, like, is this really have I sat here 326 Saturdays, right? Or, you know, when I travel wherever I was, but same computer, right? Same camera or the replica. I got a travel camera just like it, right? So, and travel lighting, I might add. I'm actually ministering to somebody that doesn't, you know, whoever's out there and you don't travel with a camera and a light. Right, bring your camera, have a travel camera, so that at a moment's notice, somebody might say, "I need you to interview me," or "I want to interview you," and you go into your bag. Hold up, man. Let me put my camera on here. Let me put my lighting up. All right, I'm ready now. You know, that's how I get down, man. Let's go. What were your wins last week? You know, I got them 2 questions I got to ask you all the time. I ain't gonna spend too much time on it though. What were your wins, somebody? What'd you do last week that you said, yeah, it's a good week, right? I'm not talking about necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be school, right? It could be that you just did some serious self-care, some serious self-preservation, whatever it was. But what'd you do last week that you said, I won last week? What were your wins? And then what will you do next week to take your leadership to another level? And keep in mind, it could be recreational. Again, those of you who are not yet in school with students and staff, it could be some more self-care. It could be some more self-preservation because even that takes your leadership to another level. Imagine you work all summer. Like you got that mentality, nah, man, I'm a dog, man. I'm a dog. Right? I'm a dog. So I'm going to work. Let them go on vacation. Let them go on the cruise. Let them go to all this stuff. I'm just gonna walk. I'm work. I'm a dog. Right? But then what happens is you could do that, but then like September, October, your body starts talking to you, and you start wearing down because you didn't take a break. So you could play that dog game all you want, man. But all of us as humans need to bring it down sometime. Bring it down. Don't you forget that. And that ain't even the monologue, man. But it's like a monologue, right? Bring it down. I see my man on here, Reggie Miller. Not the Reggie Miller y'all see used to see on the Indiana Pacers. This the real Reggie Miller right here, right? He's from Orange, New Jersey, the city of my birth, which I keep quiet. I be telling people it's East Orange, but it's actually Orange Memorial Hospital. And I see Reggie Miller, man. He is like when you talk about Orange, New Jersey, I hope I could say this, Reggie. He's Mr. Orange, New Jersey, right? Like you can't, and they got a lot of great people in Orange. I know a lot of them, but you can't even think of Orange as it relates to youth development. You cannot, and not think of this brother. You can't. If you think about anything regarding youth development, you got to think Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller of Orange, New Jersey. As a matter of fact, since I'm talking about you, Reggie's a speaker, right? You want Reggie to come to your city, your state, your nation. So go to Reggie Miller on Facebook, inbox him and ask him to send you his information. This brother is a bad brother. And particularly if you want him to talk to your young people, but he's not confined to the young people, he can talk to your staff about the young people, right? Reggie Miller, Orange, New Jersey, inbox him. That's a speaker a lot of y'all nationally don't know about, but he's been out here on the front lines forever, right? That's my man, Reggie Miller. All right, let's go, y'all. I got a lot here. Shout outs real quick. Last week, the Gear Up conference. Man, like when I go speak places, I don't necessarily like look at where I'm going specifically, like what it is. So this particular conference, all I knew is it said the Washington Hilton. That didn't mean much to me, except it's a Hilton, and that's I stay in Hiltons most of the time. So the conference was in a Hilton, so I get to earn some points while I'm there. I'm a lifetime diamond member of the Hilton chain. So I get in there and things start looking familiar in the hallway, right? From things I've seen on TV. So then, so they walking me in the room and then they say, here's the room you're going to speak in. I said to the lady, I said, wait a minute. Isn't that the room where the where the White House Correspondents' Dinner takes place? She said, yeah, that's the room. I said, oh. And so now my mind started racing because when we set up a topic for me, I'm busy and stuff. And they were like, well, we could give you a topic, right? I mean, I'm not too busy to come up with a topic. I got topics I got 300 in the computer, but I tweak them all the time, right? So they said, well, you want to use your topic or we'll give you a topic. So I figured, okay, that's the easy way out. Give me a topic because I'm good with operating on the fly. So they gave me a topic, gave me a description. I didn't read it until I got on the plane to fly from wherever I was coming from, Arizona to DC. And I said, oh, okay, I could make something out of that. Man, I got in that room and it's a big stage. Ooh. That's like when you're a speaker, it don't get no better than that. Big, if I was outside, I word it differently. I said big A stage, right? We'll say it that way, right? So now the stage had carpeting. Cause see them regular platforms, you hear like they give as you walk, it's like, and the whole audience could hear you stepping. This had carpet, man. And some of y'all have seen me speak. You've seen me get on my knees and crawl and talk about the grind. I got on my knees twice. I got on I get on my knees with no hands. I said to that audience, man, when I got back up with no hands, I said, in case y'all missed that, let me give it to you one more time, right? And got back down there with no hands and crawled across the stage talking about the grind, right? But my point is this. Even though I didn't know where I was going to be in that room, man, Obama spoke in there, man. So I didn't know I was going to be in that room. But here I was in that room, but mentally not realizing I'm gonna be in that room. But here's what I'm saying with all of that, and I'm not even in the monologue. Hey, y'all, put your ear to the speaker on this one. As I get closer to the camera on this one, I stay ready, so I don't have to get ready. Let me get a little closer, man, because somebody ain't hear me, man. I stay ready. Let me say it like this here. I stay ready, baby. So I don't have to get ready. You know how many people was in that audience? 2,000 plus. This wasn't the cafeteria and it's like 50 people in the room. 2,000 plus, baby. And I went in there not knowing. But that's all right, because I stay ready. Now, let me say it the right way. I stay ready, baby. So I don't have to get ready. Somebody better own that, man. So shout out to NCCEP Gear Up Conference, man. I had a blast. I had a great time. Woo! Shout out. In there with all them presidents, man. You know, I ain't gonna get political. I know somebody waiting for me to say something. I'm not gonna say it. Right? So just in there with all them presidents, man. President Kafele walked in there, baby. Yo, drop the mic. Let's go, man. They say he acting up already, man. He ain't even got the guest up yet. Hey, y'all, shout out to Tucson Unified School District in Arizona. I talked to all the administrators, man. We had a blast too. Man, I met some good people in there, the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, the assistant superintendents, the principals, the APs. Man, we had a good time, man. But do know I was in there stepping on some toes, man. That's what I do. When I'm talking to a leadership audience, we stepping on toes. We want people to say, ouch. We want people to say, I don't like that guy. He made me uncomfortable. I don't want people out there coming out them places talking about, I'm so inspired. Oh my God. No, I don't want that. I want people walking out of there saying, that man made me uncomfortable. I'm getting ready to go back to that school and make some changes. That's my motivation. Let's go. Shout out to Lawrence Township, Metropolitan Lawrence Township schools in Indianapolis, Indiana, man. We had a full day. Man, I met some dynamite people in there too. Y'all go to my Facebook page and check out some of them pics, man. I met some dynamite people. And to those young ladies I spoke to who are aspiring administrators, if you're on here right now, if you see the video later, y'all keep soaring, right? I'm proud of you. Keep soaring. You're doing big things already. Keep soaring. All right, y'all, let's go. Welcome to the first timers. If this is, in fact, your first time, that means that you've missed 325 sessions. 325 you missed. But here's the beauty. You can go to the YouTube channel. That's AP and New Principals Academy. Hit the subscribe button. Be one of the 25,800 subscribers to the channel. Yeah, you heard that right. I can't even fit all of them in Madison Square Garden. 25,800, right? I can't even fit them all to come to Taylor Swift's wedding. Too many, man. They don't fit that many in there, right? So y'all make sure you hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that subscribe button, right? That's important. Oh, man, Shaquela, you on here. That's one of the young ladies I was talking about, right? Shaquela Ford Hogg, man. I see you. Glad you tuned in. Glad you tuned in, right? Maybe Kimby is going to tune in as well, right? Let's go. So once again, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell. That way you're informed when I go live, which is 11 o'clock every Saturday morning without fail, right? Let's go. The Zoom, the change we got, not the change, but the second hour we're going to start doing every first Saturday, second hour. We're going to switch over to Zoom, right? Switch over to Zoom. And the way you get that link, I've been saying it every week in the intro. I'm not saying it no more when we close out, just the intro. You go to my AP New Principals Academy Facebook page, and you go to go to messages and go to my inbox, and just say I'm in. You don't have to give me no explanation about nothing. I'm gonna know what that means. Say I'm in, or say I'm down, right? And then I will send you the link. I recommend you have a profile pic though, right? Because I'm gonna go to your page. I want to see who you are, right? Because I don't want this link going to people that shouldn't have the link, right? So if you got some weird looking page and it looks suspect, I'm not sending you that link, right? So make sure that page, because I'm going to be very, very particular about who comes on that Zoom call, because this is about us being able to engage and talk about whatever I talked about in the first hour, but also being able to talk about whatever's on your mind. So I don't want that link out there. Don't share it with nobody unless it's somebody who's serious about leadership. Don't put it on your page and say, just for everybody to see, because it's not for everybody's consumption. I don't want people on there that want to attack me, troll me, or, all that kind of stuff. Just make sure that you got a real legitimate page, because I'm going to be on that page before I send you that link, right? And if I see some weird stuff, then I know you just somebody that wants to get on here and troll, right? So make sure that, y'all, that's important. And lastly, before I get to the monologue, the two books that supplement or complement the platform, the AP New Principals Academy. First, what is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? This is important, y'all. This is the most important book I've ever written. And quite frankly, it's the most important book I will ever write. I was talking to my editor yesterday, and my editor has edited my last, I think, 5 books. And she said, when are you going to write another book? I said, I don't have anything in me. I don't know if I'm ever going to write another book, right? I said, this book is so important that it's like I've exhausted what I got. I've written 14. If I come up with something that I feel that I'm qualified to write and it will sell, then I will. But for now, I got nothing in me, right? But here's the other one, the Assistant Principal 50, right? So these two books complement the platform, AP New Principals Academy. So if you don't have the two, go to Amazon, hit the other link right now and get your books, right? Or the other tab, I should say, and get your books, right? And just read those, because they're important. I don't care what your level is. If you're a superintendent, you still need to read the Assistant Principal 50, right? This is not just for the assistant principal. This is for anybody that has assistant principals in their district, right? All right. So let me get this monologue in so I can get my guest in. I had a monologue written right in my notes here, and at I would say about 10:50, I X'd it out. And because some thought jumped into my head, and I haven't rehearsed it in my mind, but I'm just going to go for it live. But it popped into my head at 10:50, and I said, all right, let's do it. God trying to tell me don't do the one I had on there. He said, I got something better for you. I said, all right, God, I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow direct. I'm going to follow orders, right? So the topic is the audacity of risk taking. This was not on my radar at 10:40, right? At 10:45. It popped in my head at 10:50. So let me read it again. The audacity of risk taking. Let's talk about it. Let me let them use me, man, because I didn't even rehearse this in my mind, right? Some of y'all know what I just said. Others don't worry about it, right? Check this out, fam. When you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur, right? You want to go into business for yourself. And you have, let's say you got a family like I did when I became an entrepreneur. Let's say you got big bills like a mortgage, and now it'll be health insurance, because it'll no longer be a deduction out of your paycheck, right? You'll be paying for it. So if you got a family, you probably be paying well over $2,000 a month for health insurance, right? And then all your other expenses, your living expenses. So we're talking about a lot of money. Right, we're talking maybe upwards of $6,000-7,000 a month just in living expenses alone, as you take this risk of leaving your employment, your safe space, and stepping out into the unknown. Right, you're taking a risk. So I call that I'm calling it, because I never had this thought before, the audacity of risk taking. Right, the audacity, the boldness, the temerity of risk taking. And it's a risk. But if you want to live that independent life, that life of you're the one that's in charge, you're the one that's calling the shots, you're the one that's setting your own stage, you're the one that's charting out your own destiny, it's a risk, because the money is not guaranteed. It's all based on how hard you work, what you put into your craft. That's where it's coming from. So I thought about that as it related to school, as it related to leadership, the audacity of risk taking. Hear me well, somebody. Risk taking in terms of what I just described is not confined to going the entrepreneurial route. Just being a leader, risk taking is at the core of your work. When you make the decision you want to lead, becoming a leader is a risk because you were so comfortable in what you used to do as a teacher, as a counselor, as a whatever you did. But now you are going to be supervising and evaluating adults while leading children simultaneously. That alone is a risk. But let's go deeper. You know, the audacity of risk taking. When you're a leader, you have to make decisions, and you are making decisions all day long. You don't have time to read a contract. You got to know the contract. You don't have time to read a policy. You got to know the policy. You don't have time to read statutes. You got to know statutes. You don't have time to read special needs law, IDEA. You got to know it, because on the spot you got to make decisions. Well, those decisions you're making are a risk, because you can make a decision that's a violation of a code, of a policy, of a statute. So that in and of itself is a risk. But let's go even deeper. As a leader, you can get stale real quick. You could get stale. Notice I'm not looking down at my paper because I ain't got nothing written on this, man. He said, go with this. I'm letting them use me. So watch this, y'all. So your leadership can get stale real quick. And now you just doing the same old thing every day. It's like you sleepwalking, right? Same old thing every day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's just the same old, you stuck in this routine. But let's go to the audacity of risk taking. See, the one that takes them risks, that's the one that says, ooh, I need to implement a new program. I need to implement a new system. I need to implement a new procedure. I need to implement a new design, right? Like so many different things. But here's the thing. Just the implementation is a risk, even when you have your entire team on board, administrative team, teaching team, or staff, faculty, because it's not guaranteed to work. And if you've invested money in this new procedure, this new process, this new program, this new whatever, and it fails, then you got nothing to show for the money you invested. So what I'm saying is, risk taking is not just stepping into leadership, but if you're going to really be successful as a leader, then you've got to be willing to take risk along the journey. And that's continual throughout your tenure as a principal. Because if you're not going to take risk, if you're only going to move when it's safe, right, then those big things that really move the needle, you may never experience them because you wanted to remain safe while you were on the job. See, just to use an example, and I'm going to use this one only because you've heard about it so many times. When I implemented the Young Men's Empowerment Program and the Young Women's Empowerment Program, that was a tremendous risk, even though I had permission from the superintendent. Here's why. Because I was taking students out of class for hours at a time. That was a tremendous risk. Because imagine I'm taking students out of class for hours at a time. I'm even taking students out of class and putting them on a bus to go to other schools to lecture to younger students. Imagine those test scores started to decrease with those students because I was taking those students out of class, and thereby the aggregate as a school, those scores began to decline, right? That's me. That's my butt on the line. Because I'm taking large segments of the population out of class to pursue another aspect of their lives. But the academic part is the one that's being looked at. Ain't nobody writing about it. No. U.S. News and World Report is not going to report on my young men's empowerment program and my young women's empowerment. They're going to report on my test scores. That's what they're going to do. So I said, I'm going to take this risk anyway. I'm taking these youngsters out of class so that we can talk life with them, not just math, not just science, not just social studies, not just language arts, but we're going to talk some life. And I know that if we can talk life, it's going to have direct implication for what they're doing academically in the classroom. That was my premise, but I had to take a risk in getting it done. Well, what was the outcome? You already know. You already know. We soared. We soared, right? So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to get into all that data and all that kind of thing. We soared, right? They didn't bring that Milken Award to my school to give me because I took a risk and failed, right? We soared. So I'm saying to you, the audacity of risk taking. I'll close this way. Have the audacity to take risk, but make sure it's well thought out, that you got others on board who are going to support the effort. And then after that, let's go. If it fails, then get your butt up and let's start again. And let's continue to be risk takers. You can't lead at these levels and you're not taking risk. Once again, the audacity of risk taking. Enough said. Enough said. Let's go. I got a guess, y'all. Let me get this screen right here. I got a guess who. I got to get that background right. Oh my God. Let's bring me back up here. I don't know where I was. Here we go. Let's bring me back and let's get that background right. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get that background. There we go. Now let's do this right. There we go. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Principal Kafele and everyone. How are you?
I'm on fire myself, man. I'm on fire. I'm blazing. I'm really feeling good. I'm feeling well rested and excited.
I love it.
Yeah. Welcome to your 4th time on the Academy. That's a record. You're the only one that's been on here 4 times. Right?
It's a blessing. That's all I can say is thank you. That's all I can say.
I appreciate you. You bring a lot to the Academy, and I know folks out here. I keep up with you, as you know, and folks out here love the work you do. So here we go. I don't usually do the shout out when I started, but I do want to recognize Principal Alicia Fields out in Petersburg, Virginia. That's just a long time fan of this platform, and I was able to be in her school, in her district a couple of weeks ago. So shout out to you, Principal Fields. Let's go. Hey, fam out there, we're talking about relational intelligence and more, right? Don't forget that and more. Do me a favor though, before I get started, hit that share button, retweet, repost, text somebody, tag somebody, call somebody, holla at somebody, let them know we here, we live in living color, and we ready to go. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that like button. Even if you dislike it, then maybe you can get some other people to dislike it with you, and you guys can dislike it together, right? So you can do it in company. So hit the like button, particularly on Facebook. And we got that Facebook working again this week. I forgot to hit that it wasn't for children last week, and that's why I didn't have any comments, right? So we good now. We good. Let's go. Let me read this bio. Hey, y'all, I got to tell you before I read the bio about Dr. Edoho Eket, and you know I don't call no first names once we get live. So I got to tell you something. This bio has changed dramatically since the last time she was here. So we're going to talk about that as part of our and more. But this is not the same person that was here last time as far as accomplishments. Make no mistake about it. Dr. Rachel Edoho Eket is a wife, mother, principal, speaker, author, and the 2025 president of the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals. As the principal of a national blue ribbon school in Maryland, she is a lifelong learner who strives for excellence for everyone she serves. Named as one of the top 100 influencers in education by District Administration Magazine and a 2026 ISTE ASCD 20 to watch winner. Dr. Edoho Eket has dedicated her life's work to supporting all stakeholders in public education. She's a highly sought after thought leader and keynote speaker at many prominent educational events, including TEDx, ISTE ASCD, and the National School Leaders Conference. Dr. Edoho Eket's first best-selling book, The Principal's Journey, Navigating the Path to School Leadership, provides a practical blueprint for educators to follow as they transition into new leadership roles. Her second best-selling book, Relational Intelligence, The Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership, co-written with Dr. Brad Johnson, focuses on trust, communication, and connection as the foundation for leading excellent schools. She's also the host of the live streaming series, Strong Start Sundays, which features a vibrant community of leaders sharing helpful strategies for success in today's schools. That's Strong Start Sundays. That's on YouTube, and I believe it's at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, 7 o'clock Eastern time, y'all. Strong Start Sunday. She's live. 7 o'clock Sunday. So you catch Josh Tovar at 6 and then just go right over to YouTube, or you can watch Josh on YouTube and then just watch her at 7 o'clock, which features a vibrant community of leaders sharing helpful strategies for success in today's schools. I'm stuttering because I'm going so fast. Dr. Edoho Eket holds a BS in early childhood and elementary education from Temple University, an MS in curriculum and instruction from McDaniel College, and a doctorate in leadership and professional practice from, I'm going to try this, Trevecca Nazarene University. Did I get that right?
That's perfect.
Let me ask you this question. Now, I know you were a track star. So did you run at Temple?
I did. Yeah, I was a conference champion there.
Conference champion. See, y'all didn't know that part.
Yeah.
He was a track star. So was that a scholarship?
Full scholarship.
Academic? Yes. I mean, athletic?
Yes.
So you were big time in high school. You were big time.
I was an All-American in high school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. See,
big blessings.
See, we know Dr. Edoho Eket as far as being a leader, a speaker, a principal, all that kind of thing. But full scholarship to Temple University for track and field ain't nothing to sleep at. Nothing to sleep at, y'all. That's big. That's big. Let's go. I just want to talk about you for a little while, and then we'll get that's that and more, and then we'll get to the topic in the book. Since you were last here, you've accomplished, as I said before, a whole lot. It's almost unimaginable what you've accomplished in such a short period of time, a short span of time. Talk to us first. I got a 4-parter for you. Talk to us about your drive to be able to live your vision.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say thank you. You are a huge part of my journey because I've been able to watch everything that you're doing and your level of impact. And that is so inspiring to me and so many other people on this platform that I've been following for years. And I'm continuing to stay fresh and energized because of their work. So, it did start with a dream. I'll be honest with you. There are some things that I have wanted to do over the years, and I've just continued to pursue those things. And I know, listening to your monologue this morning, Principal Kafele, when you're talking about taking risks, that is a huge part of this process. It's understanding that when you are a speaker, you're going to get a lot of proposal denials. And that's what people don't always understand. Sometimes they're looking at profiles and they're like, wow, this person is doing all this stuff. But there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. I've had more proposal denials than I have acceptances, and I'll be upfront about that. But I share that with people because if you know you have something to share with the world, if you know the level of impact that you're having in your space, you need to share that with other people. Because the whole reason why we're in this work is to share the good work with somebody else and to help make improvements in every school. And so no matter what it's looking like at any present moment, continue to do the work. And yes, a large part of that is a part of my discipline. I was a student athlete for my whole life. I've had wonderful coaches and mentors throughout helping me go along. And I have a lot of energy. So when I'm passionate about something, I'm serious about that work. And I hope that that passion has shown through in some of the things that I'm doing and that I will be doing in the future.
I love it. And I want to, I want to go back to you use the word denials, which is a good word, but I use the hard word because I'm probably upset about it. I use the word rejected, right?
Yeah.
So I would so I want the fam to understand, those of you who have applied to present at conferences to be breakout presenters, I was denied or rejected multiple times in my journey, right? But multiple times, right? Like Dr. Edoho Eket said, probably more times than I was accepted for a long time. Just sending them proposals, no. But I got to let you in on something because I want to inspire somebody. Even though I always say I want to make people uncomfortable, let me inspire somebody on this one. I still get rejected.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I get rejected from conferences that I have been in. I get rejected in conferences where I spoke to rooms of upwards of 2,000 people, right? And I'm not, and when I say 2,000, that sounds like keynote size, right? I'm talking about because of the way I don't want to like bring the wrong attention to myself, but because of the way I'm being perceived as a speaker. So they'll say, we got to give you a big room. We're going to give you 2,000, right? So now we got the 2,000 seater and it's standing room only. And then I send a proposal, and they sell out all my books, I might add. And then I send a proposal for the next year or the year after, rejection. I'm like, wait a minute. We just had the biggest room in your conference outside of the keynote, and I'm rejected. But that's what it is, y'all. So I don't want you. So I'm sharing that with you because I don't want you to be discouraged. Somebody out there, when they reject you, do find out why they rejected you, right? So that you know how you need to improve your proposal for next year. But do know that you're in good company.
Yeah.
With the two of us, we still, and I've been holding microphones for 40 years, 40 years, and I still get rejected in some places, right? So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let's keep going. So Dr. Edoho Eket, what is your advice to the fam out there who, and this is not necessarily speaking, this is just life on this question. It could be it's just aspects of the school life. So what is your advice to the fam out there who's being driven, not I'm reading the wrong question. The fam out there who's chasing dreams, who's chasing a certain vision that they have, but the challenges and the obstacles abound.
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think for me, when I think about, first of all, goal setting, I'm a very big goal setter. I will write things down that I want to do because part of that, half the battle is like writing something down on a piece of paper, getting it there, putting it somewhere so that you can remain focused on that. But again, I think you have to remember everything is a process. I'm a process person, Principal Kafele. And so I understand that when I was a track athlete, there was not an easy pathway to go to number one. There was not, there was weight room, there was practices, there was getting into rehab. There were many things that go into a process of something. Yeah. But I think people get discouraged when they only see wins. They only see what is the outcome of something. Yeah. But people have no idea how much work it takes behind the scenes. And this is where I think discipline comes in and where authenticity comes in. Because if you are doing something with the right frame of mind, if you are doing something with the right purpose in your heart, and you're consistent in doing that, then you will see the results. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it will come. Sometimes it only takes one yes. Principal Kafele, I saw you posted this week about wanting to do a TED Talk. Yeah, and that had me thinking, because I get a lot of people inboxing me, how did you get a TED Talk? And the first thing I say is, I applied to speak 30 times and had 30 rejections.
Wow.
But I only need one yes. That's all I needed. And sometimes you just need that one. So you keep chasing after that one yes. And you know what happens after that? You'll get a second yes. You'll start getting calls to do more and more things. And then you'll be building on that momentum. So my suggestion is stay focused on what you know you want to do. Continue to engage with leaders like Principal Kafele and other people who are doing the work you want to do. Again, you're such a big source of inspiration to me and so many other people in the academy because of the work that they've been doing. Because my thing is this, I just started speaking about 10 years ago. I think I showed you Principal Kafele. The first keynote I ever did was in 2016. And that was as an assistant principal. I had an opportunity to speak for Gallup at their national summit. And that was because of the work that our school district was doing. They said, hey, Rachel's an AP. She's doing some of this work. Let's get her up on a stage. That was the first time I had ever done a keynote a decade ago.
Wow.
And now fast forward, I had not done much speaking in between there. My first proposal acceptance to speak at Maryland State Conference was 2023. So this has really happened in a very short amount of time. And what I share with people is there are people who've been speaking for 20 years. That's who I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be the one who gets that longevity. You can do anything in a short amount of time, but how do you build that endurance for the long term? That's where I'm focused. I want to remain relevant, just like you. That's what I'm trying to do.
I love it. I love it. And you're on that road. So it's happening. We see it happening in real time. Real time. Talk to us about the significance of being driven by a purpose, mission, and vision.
That's everything. That's everything. You know, at the end of the day, if you are not centered on your purpose and what you're called to do, then it's very easy to get off track. This is what I tell people. My calling is very simple. I believe I was put on this earth to help people. Now, that help can look very different. That help may be in the form of being a kindergarten teacher. That help may be in the form of being a principal. That help may be in the form of being a wife, a mom, a sister, all these different roles that we have. But ultimately, I believe my purpose is to help someone else. And I think if we all look at our roles as being a helper to somebody else, though no matter if you're getting wins, if you're feeling defeated, at the end of the day, you can come home and sleep every night to say, who did I help today? And did I? Now, the day I come home and say I helped nobody today, then that's a failure in my eyes.
Yeah.
But I have yet a day where I haven't shared a resource or talked with somebody or received help from somebody else. So I know that is my personal purpose here. So I think figuring out what that is and keeping it very simple, very simple.
Love it. One more and we'll get to our topic. Talk to us about the significance of the absence of a purpose, absence of a sense of mission, absence of vision, yet desirous of success.
Listen, you know, when I started out, I was someone who had a private page, right? I had a private personal page and I focused on my family and I still have that page. But when I started making a more public presence, you get all sorts of people requesting things, wanting to link together, wanting to do these. And so if this is my barometer, if it's not something that is going to fit within the purpose of what I'm doing, then I can't do it. I always say, thank you for your request. Thank you for thinking of me. But right now, it's not possible. And I think in the absence of having that purpose-driven mindset, you're going to get pulled in a lot of different directions. And the farther away that you get pulled from your purpose, the longer it's going to take you to get where you want to be.
The longer it's going to take.
It'll take you longer.
Now you're not on your pathway anymore. You somewhere over here, somewhere over here.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Let's jump into our topic, relational intelligence. You know, you co-wrote your most recent book, Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. You know, so, you know, we talk about IQ, EQ, but now there's this RQ, right?
Yeah.
Relational intelligence, co-written with Dr. Brad Johnson. So before we jump into the contents of the book, let me ask you a question. Relational intelligence, what is it?
So relational intelligence is really a focus on people. You know, when we talk about IQ, all of us have heard of IQ, that's your cognitive ability. Many of us have read books about EQ, that's our sort of emotional intelligence and how we're able to understand ourselves and having that personal emotional awareness and response to things. But relational intelligence takes it a step further. Relational intelligence is wholly focused on how do we interrelate with people, and not just people in schools. How do we interrelate with our relationships at home? How do we interrelate on the job? So relational intelligence is something that was brought up, Principal Kafele, when you were honored at ISTE. If you remember, when you got your Legacy Award, one of the other winners was talking about relational intelligence. And I got so happy when she mentioned relational intelligence, because I think we're at a very interesting time in history. We have AI. We have a lot of automated things in our life. We have connections with thousands of people online. But you know what? The number one thing that people are experiencing right now is loneliness. There is a lot of people who are lonely. Why is that? You know, we're so interconnected, but yet we're disconnected. And so relational intelligence is really about how can we bring people back together? And specifically in schools, how can we keep teachers in our buildings? Because we know teachers have a lot of choice and education is hard right now. And anything that we can do as school leaders to keep teachers in our building and staff, we need to do that, because it's very disruptive when teachers and staff continue to turn over in our buildings, because that impacts our students the most. So we really are centering on relational intelligence as a way to be a driver for school leaders to keep our communities successful.
Yeah. When, if you know, did relational intelligence become a thing, a category or a genre?
I'm actually hearing about it more and more, but we are not the people who coined relational intelligence. This is definitely research-based work over like 30 years. But I think the reason why it's gaining more prominence now is because what I shared before, there's a lot of things that are meant to keep us connected that have actually disconnected us. I mean, if you go on Facebook or any sort of social media now, you'll see there's echo chambers and there's a lot of infighting. But initially, I remember, because I was one of the early adopters of Facebook, because it started when I was in college. And it was like, oh, we just want to share pictures and stay connected. And at a certain point, that changed. And I think what's happening around the world is people have a yearning to feel connected again. And that's the significance of this work.
What was your motivation for co-writing this book? Relational intelligence.
Yeah, I really believe strongly in the tenets, and we identify trust, communication, and connection as the drivers for this work. That speaks to me every single day. In my role as a principal, that's all we do. You all know, if you're on the call, you know the way that we show up to work makes a difference. When I'm having a great day, I feel like people are having a wonderful day. We help to set the tones for that building. If I walk in the school, I'm dragging, I'm complaining, then I'm impacting other people too, in a different way, in a way I don't want to. And so our work on relational intelligence really centers around what are the key skills that leaders need to do this work well? And most importantly, how can we sustain ourselves in the work so that we can continue to be impactful across our school communities? So I feel very driven by this book, and I really stand behind the work because I think there's been some pendulum swinging. You know, you and I talk about Principal Kafele, and you often reference Principal Joe Clark, right? So when I was coming up, I remember watching that movie in high school, and you've got this principal with, you know, the stick on his back, and he's coming in and he's laying down the law. And all that was fine and good. But I think, like most things, we're evolving to understand if we don't have the support of our people, if we don't have the support of our staff members, we're not doing anything. We're not moving anything. We're spinning our wheels. And so the relational intelligence aspect is very critically important to our work as school leaders.
You know, I'm way off script on this one. It's just from keeping my ears open as you speak. So leaders out there, or a leader out there, and with whatever research that's out there, which is probably not at the level of emotional intelligence, and IQ and so forth, right? So what happens, and this is just me coming at you philosophically now. What happens if there's this leader in a school who does not realize that I'm lacking relational intelligence? Like, where is that corrected if I don't know that it's a thing and I don't know that I'm lacking at it? What is one to do?
Well, can I tell you a sign if you don't know? May I share?
Yeah.
If you have a lot of turnover every year in your school
Mm,
and people wanting to get out the door, then you may assume, or you might want to think about picking up a copy of our book, because turnover is one of the indicators. If you have staff who are continually leaving every year, that's one indicator. Another indicator, I was told years ago, this was before I even knew about relational intelligence, but one of my good friends who was an AP at the time said to me, Rachel, one of the signs that your staff trusts you is that they come to you with questions and concerns. And they're coming to you because they believe you can do something about it. He said, but the minute no one talks to you about questions, no one comes to you with concerns, you might know that you are losing people in your building, because people have come to a point where they're saying, what's the point of asking? What's the point of coming if nothing's going to change? So I wanted to share that, because a lot of times we think, oh, people are always asking me, why are they always doing that? That's actually not a bad thing. It says that people trust your opinion, that they trust your perspective, and they want your help. If they're not coming to you, that's a bigger sign that there may be an issue afoot. And that's something to pay attention to.
I love that. That's good stuff. Let's make you a consultant in a school one day, and and you're there to do some leadership consulting. So it's no speaking, you're just consulting. So you observe based on your understanding of relational intelligence. You observe that there's a principal that clearly has relational intelligence. What is it about that principal that you can reach that conclusion about that individual? What are you seeing?
So many things. First of all, being present. That's number one that we talk about in the book, is being there, but just not being present. That's not enough, like fully present. And I give this example because I was actually looking back at some old notes that I used to take from myself when I was given feedback. Because, in this role, we get a lot of feedback. We get feedback that is solicited and unsolicited. And we talk about this in the book, that I remember sitting in meetings. I would be in my data meetings. I was physically present. I was there, but I was checking emails the whole time. And I was doing that because I wanted to stay responsive to our staff. And you know what? One of my coworkers nicely pulled me to the side after the meeting and said, Rachel, I want to talk to you. She said, I love that you're always responsive to emails. That's something that's important to us, to the school. However, when you're checking emails and we're making important decisions, you're not fully present in those conversations. And we need you to be here because we're making important decisions. But more than just be here, you have to be present. And that was a learning experience for me, because here I am thinking I'm doing something good. I'm a great multitasker so far as I'm concerned, but there are limits to multitasking. And I think all of us as leaders have had those moments where we're called out on something. And I could have got defensive, but I didn't. I said, thank you for telling me. So now when I show up to meetings, I have to close my laptop. It's a discipline thing. If I don't close it, I'm definitely checking emails. I have to put my phone in another place. So when I think about relationally intelligent leaders, it's not just being physically present in the room, it's actually engaging with staff and being there. Another thing is just building that trust with people. Something as simple as learning people's names. I have friends who are like, I know for a fact my principal does not know my name. I don't know how that happens, but it does. Wow. I had a school of over 1,000. So I understand it's a pressure situation to get people's names. But at the same time, over that summertime, I was studying the yearbook. That was what I did. I would come home and learn the names by the yearbook. That's how I did it. And as someone who has a name like mine, Edoho Eket, it's not hard to say, but when you look at it, it's a little challenging. Yeah. It's important to get those names right.
Right.
So these are things that I think are simple on the surface, but because they require reflection and because they require effort, not everyone is there yet. And it's a process like everything else. We're still learning. Still learning.
It's strong stuff. Um, Man, I got a lot in my notes. Let's see if we cover it all. In the book, and I'm gonna keep showing it to the fam here. Relational intelligence, right? You can get it at Amazon, y'all. The two of you as co-authors, you list these 5 powerful outcomes of a leader with strong relational intelligence as follows: more engaged staff, lower turnover, higher job satisfaction, stronger team collaboration, and resilience during challenges. Now, when I read that, there was a piece here that I said I wanted to read to the fam before I jump into it. Listen to this, fam. It says on page 12, by developing relational intelligence, you're not just improving your leadership effectiveness, you're creating a team that is engaged, loyal, and ready to tackle any challenge together. The benefits of high relational intelligence, or RQ, go beyond just improving your leadership skills. They transform your entire organization into a more connected, motivated, and successful team. I found that to be powerful. So I wanted to and I remember what we said off camera, and don't worry about it. Um, More engaged staff. So let me read that again. These 5 powerful outcomes of a leader with strong relational intelligence as follows: more engaged staff.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Several things. We can track things like attendance with our staff, right? We all have those dashboards. And, teaching itself is so challenging. It's so very hard right now. And likely that's not going to change. And so anything that we can do to keep our staff in the building regularly benefits our students. So we can look at a lot of different indicators. We can look at attendance. We can look at staff morale. That's something that our district looks at every single year. There's surveys that are done. We can look at internal surveys. So I'm someone, as you know, Principal Kafele, that strongly believes in giving anonymous surveys to staff. And I understand not everyone agrees with that. Not everyone is comfortable, but let me just share some of the benefits of it. When we send that 100-day survey, and we send it every single year, I'm only asking 3 questions. I'm asking what's going well, what is something that can be improved, and is there anything else you want to say? And just opening that up to staff every year, I always learn something of value. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything. It doesn't mean that I have to take a deep breath before I open those results. But I will say, I've had staff members say, I've never had an opportunity to give my principal feedback. 99% of the time, we as school leaders are giving someone else feedback. But it is a lesson, I think, in humility to say, what is something you want to tell me that you may or may not feel comfortable telling me right to my face? Because there are some people who are definitely going to tell you to your face if something is wrong, or if they want something to change. And so I think part of that engagement is around trusting the staff enough to say, I want the feedback, and not only taking it, but doing something about it, doing something with the feedback. And that's really important, because we can listen to surveys all day, every day, but if we're not making any changes, we're not doing anything. We're doing things for performative reasons, and that's something we should never be doing.
Yeah. Good stuff. Again, to the fam, 5 powerful outcomes of a leader with strong relational intelligence. So lower turnover, you talked about, right?
Yes.
So I can move on. Higher job satisfaction. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, same thing. So over the years, we've done job satisfaction surveys with our staff, and that gets reported to our district. So even there, like, our district is very in tune with staff engagement. And this is something that needs to be talked about more. I know that we hear a lot about, doom and gloom and how teachers are feeling, but it is important to understand that some principals and some schools are getting this right. And it's a process. So I'm consistently looking at my principal colleagues who have that really high level. What are you all doing, right? Let's share ideas amongst each other, because at any point in time, we can hit those dips and it's like, oh my goodness, I want to course correct. And we know some of those dips that happen because, generally in the school year, you start off high, and then by October, you start to go a little lower, and then you get those breaks in between. And really the whole year is kind of like a cycle. So one of the things that my AP and I are working on this year is how can we hit specific things during those cycles when we know that staff morale dips a little bit. And that's a natural dip. It's not something that someone is doing or not doing. It's things that people get busy. It's report cards, it's conferences. All of those things are hitting at the same time. So what can we infuse during those times to lift up engagement levels? And I want to share one more thing about engagement. Engagement is also about what personal strengths do you bring to our school, and how can you leverage those strengths? How can we collectively leverage those strengths so that students benefit, right? And I remember sitting on an interview earlier this summer and saying to the person, what is something that you can bring to our school? That's an important question to ask, because you're going to get 50 different answers if you ask 50 different people that question. But if you're able to hire someone that has strengths that they can really benefit at your school, then that person's coming to our school. I can tell you that right now. We had someone who said she was really into running and she wanted to facilitate a running club. Well, we have a running club at our school, and every year we have to have a teacher volunteer in order for this program to run. And I thought that would be something that would be great. If you're passionate about science, if you're passionate about, social emotional learning, that's something that's going to make our students better. And so working through strengths is another good way to keep people engaged. I mean, just think about it. If you have an experience, you do something really well and you never get a chance to do that, you're not going to want to be in that environment. It's not benefiting you, and it's not benefiting the school, frankly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. 5 powerful outcomes of a leader with strong relational intelligence. Number 4, stronger team collaboration.
Yes. Same thing. I think I talk a lot about coaching and mentoring. I've written a course about it. I'm getting ready to teach it at McDaniel College this fall.
Wow.
And, the team collaboration is not something that's automatic. And I think sometimes when we walk into schools, especially those people who are newly promoted this year, or you're going to a school new, you might assume that those systems are already in place and you just have to walk in and make an assumption that they're going to work. But we really can't do that as relationally intelligent leaders. What we need to be thinking about is what are those systems and processes on each team to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to work through their strengths, to contribute, to have collaborative planning. So when I think about our master schedule, that's one of the things that we were looking at in last springtime in preparation for the fall. How can we maximize our time so that people have that collaborative planning already in their calendars? How can I be present during some of those meetings when I'm busy? But it's important to be there so that we can hear some of the things instructionally, so that when I'm walking into a classroom, I can see the fruits of that outcome. So that collaborative space, I'll give you just a quick example. A lot of teams are really great individually, but what's happening across the school? What we found out is there are some silos that happen. So you might have this department that doesn't necessarily interact with this department. But when you're running a school, everything should be interconnected. And so we have brought together reading clusters across grade levels. We brought together math clusters to talk about instruction, to talk about vocabulary. We've included our English language development teachers, or ESOL teachers. We've brought together reading specialists so that the collaboration is across the school, not just team by team. So there's different processes that we can look at across our building to really improve the level of collaboration.
Wow. Relationally intelligent leaders create, so we said, more engaged staff, lower turnover, higher job satisfaction, stronger team collaboration, and then there's one more: resilience during challenges.
Ooh, this is the one. This is the one. So I don't know about your schools, people who are watching, but each of our schools has their own challenges. Every school has a challenge. Doesn't matter what it looks like on paper. Every school has a challenge. And so the question is not so much if there's a challenge, it's how do we respond to it? If there's a challenge, are people starting to do infighting? If there's a challenge, are people pointing fingers? Or if there's a challenge, are people coming together to say, what can we do? What's my part in helping this situation? And one of the examples that I give from the book is we had a student with some behavior challenges. Now, normally you may have the teacher and maybe the principal sit together and say, okay, what are some things that we might do? But I remember sitting down with the team. Even though this student was only across one or two teachers, we sat as a team to talk about this. And it wasn't just the classroom teachers, it was our paraeducators at the table. It was our student assistants. It was our case manager at the table. It was our related arts teachers. And we said, what do you see? Because sometimes students can present differently depending on who they're in front of. So there were some teachers in the room that said, I never have seen a behavior. Other teachers that said, I see a behavior every day. What are you doing that I'm not doing? How can we share strategies across so that we're more consistent for this student? And we came up with a plan. We came up with who was that highest reinforcer teacher that became someone that became a check-in for this student, starting the day, check-in every day. Who was someone who could do a mid-level check-in who's a little closer with their schedule? That became one of our paraeducators. Who was someone who could relieve the teacher when the teacher was saying, okay, I need a break? That we went through step by step, and we let the parent know as well, hey, what's your perspective? Here's what we want to do. Where do you see a home connection that we can put together? And that's the collaboration that I'm talking about. When there's a challenge, we have to work together. There's no way one person is going to be able or responsible for solving issues. It's going to take everybody at the table. Everybody's strengths at the table have to be there.
Hey, fam out there, I'm hearing a whole master class, right? Do me a favor, hit that share button, retweet, repost, text someone, call somebody, someone, holler at someone, let them know we're here, we're live, and they need to be a part of this conversation. Let me, and by the way, hit that like button as well, particularly on that YouTube side. In the book, let me put this cover up yet again.
Yes, thank you.
Relational Intelligence by Dr. Rachel Edoho Eket and Dr. Brad Johnson. But in the book, you talk about, and this is really like sort of the core, the foundation of the book, these three pillars of relational intelligence that lead to exceptional leadership. And let me share what those three are: trust, communication, and connection. So with trust, you call that a leadership game changer.
Yeah.
Communication, we talk about communication that inspires, and then connection over compliance. So so again, you refer to this trust as this game changer, and I was intrigued by that. And then there was this piece right here in the book, and fam, I just want to read this. It's actually a little longer than what I just read, but I want you to hear this, fam. Think of the best leader you've ever worked with. Oddly, you didn't follow them because of their job title, but because you trusted them. Without trust, nothing else works. Communication falls flat. Collaboration disappears. Your team stops taking risks. Ooh, remember that word if you were with me during the monologue this morning, fam? So your team stops taking risks, stops sharing ideas, and starts doing just enough to get by. And if you think trust is just a nice to have, let's talk about what happens when it's missing. According to Gallup, 2017, 50% of employees, including teachers who quit their jobs, do so because of their boss. Let me read that again.
Yeah.
According to Gallup, 2017, 50% of employees, including teachers who quit their jobs, do so because of their boss. If I could put a quick pause in here. Before I went to North Tech, I quit my principalship because of my boss. Period. No other factors. Let's go.
Wow.
That's not just a statistic. That's an epidemic. Last paragraph. Trust is the glue. I want to read that again. Trust is the glue that holds everything together. And here's the kicker. It's not just about whether people trust you to do the job. It's about whether they trust that you have their backs, that you lead with integrity, and that when things get tough, you won't throw them under the bus.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot there. I got a 4-parter for you. What is your advice to leaders out there what's your advice to leaders out there about the how? I'm looking at 2 questions at once. Let me focus on the one question about how they go about establishing trust with their staff. So let me read that coherently this time. What is your advice to leaders out there about how they go about establishing trust with their staff?
A couple of ways. First of all, I wrote this book when I was in the middle of transitioning from my previous school. Now, when I first met you, Principal Kafele, I had been principal of that school for 5 years. That's when we first met. And then I moved and transitioned to a new school 2.5 years ago. So I'm starting year 3 right now. And this is something that I had to learn. You cannot assume that just because you had the trust of a community somewhere else, that you're going to automatically have that when you go somewhere new.
That's right.
And I think that there are no shortcuts to building trust, but there are things that we can do consistently that will make a difference. And number one, I use the word consistently, right? So one of the ways I try to build trust is, number one, just letting people know who I am, what my values are. So when I first met the new staff, I talked about my family. I talked about some of the struggles that I've had in the past. I talked about my belief in students, my belief in educators, that I'm always going to be a learner. My truth that if I'm doing something wrong, I want someone to tell me. I do not want people talking around me, because I cannot improve unless I know what I'm doing wrong and what needs to be adjusted. And so it's first communicating some of those values, but also it's following through and being consistent. Leaders cannot show up one way one day and show up a totally different way the next day. That confuses people. It's too much. You know, you have to be consistent. I remember last year, one of my staff members asked me, they said, Rachel, are you ever flustered? Do you ever get nervous? We've kind of never seen you like that. I said, I do, but not in the way kind of generally that it looks like. So people can expect if something is going down, I'm probably going to be calm. I'm probably going to ask some questions. I'm probably going to work to de-escalate it. And we're probably going to meet afterwards to debrief. Those are just some things that I do consistently. So again, if you want to build trust with people, be authentic, be yourself, talk through decisions, and that's going to come up in communications, but talk through how decisions are being made so that people understand your thinking process. You know, because sometimes as leaders, we have to make quick decisions, but that's not all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to include everyone at that table so people can hear other people's perspectives. Because sometimes that learning makes a lot of sense when everyone is in the room. So just be thinking about how you can show up consistently and how you can communicate your values and live through those values. We cannot say one thing and do another. I think we all know as leaders, people are always watching us. They are watching you. They want to see how you're going to react. They want to see when you're challenged by a parent, do you immediately fold? Do you blame? Or do you say, no, let's sit down and talk about it. Let me get everyone at the table so I have enough information. That's one thing that I've learned over time, right? If there's something that's an issue that's coming up, I'm probably the one that has the least amount of information. Let me bring the person to the table that there are questions. We have questions and let's figure it out. You know, that's the consistent part that builds trust for our staff.
That's a lot there, fam. I hope you got all that. But of course, you know, the video is here forever, so you can always watch it on YouTube and pick up on, because there's a lot said there. You know, there's I made a few notations here of things I want to read from this book, because there's just a lot there. So let's move on. There's a passage here under communication. So we're talking about these 3 pillars: trust, communication, and connection. So let's go to communication that inspires. I just want to read this to y'all. Hey, fam, hear me out. Finally, let's talk about communication. Have you ever talked with a leader who felt more like a distant authority figure than a real person? And then there's the leader who made you feel like your voice mattered, like they genuinely listen. Communication that inspires is about creating a dialogue, not just a monologue. It's about asking questions, showing care, listening to the answers, and creating a space where ideas flow freely. Think about the conversation with the leader who genuinely listened to you. It felt good, didn't it? Trust deepens when communication is open and meaningful, and the team becomes more cohesive. The best leaders don't just talk, they listen and invite collaboration. By embracing these pillars, leaders create an environment where trust, connection, and open communication are at the forefront, empowering their teams to reach their full potential. Question for you, and good stuff, by the way. What is your advice to leaders out there where clearly communication, the skill of communication, is not a strong point?
Okay, so such a big part of our jobs is communication. It's communication that either is good enough where the most people understand it, or it's not clear and then it causes confusion. So I would say of all the skills that we have, communication as a leader is so important. And some advice I would just give is keep it simple, right? Because sometimes I'll say this about myself. I'm verbose. I can write dissertations. I've done them. I've written books. You talked about Principal Kafele, leaders as readers and writers, right? So we have a lot to say. And sometimes I've had to say to myself, Rachel, just close your mouth. Just sit there and listen. So that helps me. Just listen. Don't speak. Even when we want to. Okay. But if there's something that you're challenged by in terms of communication, I would say reach out to someone, a principal colleague who's a strong communicator, and say, can I see a copy of your newsletter? Can I see a copy of this email? I'm in a situation. I want to just know. I do that all the time. I'll say, hey, this is a pretty complex procedure that our district just put out. Has anyone messaged this to staff? And we'll sit down and we'll have a couple principals come on and say, can we work on something together? And then we'll send it out. It's so much better when you can do that. So if you are not the strongest communicator and you know that about yourself, maybe you don't. So here's something that may help you. If you thought you wrote an email, you thought it was very clear, you send it out and you come back with receiving hundreds of questions, that wasn't a clear email message, right? So that's a cue that there was a miscommunication there. And that's why I'm suggesting if you reach out to other leaders in your district, hey, I got some questions about this. How did you message it out? And just see what are some of the differences. That's something that I continue to learn from my other colleagues who are very strong communicators. And I think I'm a strong communicator, but we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just don't get the messaging right. And you and I have talked about this. Sometimes you have the right message at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have the timing is right, but the people you're saying it to is wrong. So there's many things that go into communication beyond just sending an email or text messages or videos. We also have to have the messaging right with the right people at the right time. That's very important too.
Yeah. Well, you know what you made me think of? Talk to us. What are your thoughts on the nonverbal blind spots?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I talk a little bit about sort of my need to hold it together. Some of us on the call also may struggle with what I struggle with, which is keeping my face in order. And, a lot of what we do is nonverbal. That's what's interpreted. You can say the same message and it be interpreted very different based on the nonverbal cues, based on the lack of eye contact that you have with someone, based on the tone that you use with someone. So I've had to really work on tone sometimes. And this is something I'm continuing to work with. I'm a very direct person.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I think I've been direct, I've had things misinterpreted. So when I've tried to soften messages, then it becomes even less clear. So it's a continual awareness of how are we speaking with people and how are they interpreting what we are saying. Sometimes what I've had to do is at the end of a conversation, I'll say, I just want to summarize what we talked about. I do this with families a lot because I've been in lots of conversations with families over the years. And sometimes we'll end a conversation and I'll say, I think that went great. And the family might say, I don't feel comfortable with that. And so it creates more need to speak and work on the solution. So what I've learned to do with people is to say, this is what I shared today. Here's what you shared today. Here's our next steps. This is what we agreed upon. Did I miss anything?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something I need to follow up on? Something else? Is there something else that you need to know? Right? So I think having that summary conversation with everyone that we serve, while it feels unnatural, while it might feel a certain way, it will help you in the long run in terms of the communication, because at least you're leaving that conversation on the same page.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. You know, I've got this. I don't think I created this, but I've never heard it before. And I think it a lot. I say it to audiences, and I call it, like you mentioned, eye contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it in a positive way. So over the past year or so, I've been talking about this thing that I'm calling excessive eye contact.
Yes.
Right? And just for clarity for the fam out there, what I mean by that, it's a principal or an AP and a teacher, and it's a coaching session, and the teacher is not yet comfortable in this environment, this coaching environment, and there's no real culture for instructional coaching in the school, no culture for it anyway. So now the principal is maintaining this eye contact as I look at myself now, and I'm just going to look at me hard, and without gazing like in another direction, left or right, just straight eye contact right into the person's eyes, this excessive eye contact, which can be quite intimidating, right?
And intense. And intense.
And intense. Talk to us about that as
Yeah,
it
well,
relates to relational intelligence.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I do remember this at your session at
Yeah,
the School Leaders Conference. That can be intimidating, but I've served in many different diverse school communities. Sometimes in different cultures, eye contact is frowned upon. And so
yeah,
I think we need to have that level of relational intelligence where we understand what might work for someone to be respect or be a sign of respect may actually not be a sign of respect in other cultures. So we have to know who we're talking to. And again, that comes down to relational intelligence, because we have to individualize people's experiences. Some things I think are best practices, and you're going to hear about those in the book when you get it. For instance, you and I were talking about having conferences, right? When we're meeting with teachers, especially new teachers, for those pre and post conferences, I've often said, let me meet in your room. Let's meet in your classroom. Why? Because the principal's office can be very intimidating. Now, I like to think I have a nice office. I have pictures everywhere. I have lots of like kid-based things for students, but it still can be intimidating for people. And so when I say I want to meet you in your classroom, that sort of takes a sting out of some of those initial, when people get anxious, oh my gosh, I'm meeting with the principal. Well, let me meet on your turf. So just be thinking about ways that we can continue to meet people where they are. And I'm
yeah,
saying that because we have a lot of not only new teachers, but we have veterans in the building who are new to the field, right? So we have career changers who might have come from a business world, who may have come from a different place culturally, that we are also trying to cultivate and keep in our schools. So they may require a different way of leadership.
yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. My brother Bobby Morgan, my New Jersey Alliance of Black School Educators brother. He's got a question here that I want to throw at you. And Bobby, by the way, you've been on my list forever to get you on here, so I'll be reaching out soon, man. I just keep putting it off. You know how it is. Life gets in the way. But you said, is it possible to talk about trust from the aspect of teachers who are comfortable with harmful practices? How do you navigate trust when folks want you to accept nonsense?
This is an awesome question. And I think that it's ones that across our careers, many of us have experienced before. We have a lot of different people in our buildings and who we've worked with collectively, who may have different philosophical ways of interacting with students. And I think number one goes back to what we talked about before. When we're talking about building trust with people and being that consistent presence, a lot of leadership is modeling. Number one, we have to model the ways and the expectations that we want in the building. That's number one. So when I'm looking at students in the building who might have some behavior challenges, am I in their face, nose to nose, pointing at them? I have done that in the past, but I've evolved. I've done that as a new teacher, but I realized that doesn't help strengthen the relationship. And that's not a direction that I want to go in. And so if I talk to students on their level, if I get down on the floor, if I ask them, how can I help them? Can I take them for a walk? Can I remove them from that environment? Then that's a more empathetic way of managing a student who may be experiencing a challenge at the time. And I think with adults, when we see those practices, we have to name them. It may not be right in that moment, but unless it's very harmful, yes, then it's in the moment. But if it's a conversation we have with a staff member to say, hey, I saw this. This is what our school believes. These are the values that we show in the building. And right now, that didn't align with what we're doing. Yeah. If you have those conversations enough, eventually two things are going to happen. Either the person is going to say, okay, can you tell me more about it? Or I understand my role in there and I do want to get better. Can you share some practices? Can you connect me with someone? Like I'll connect people. Hey, here's someone who has some really great management techniques. Are you okay if I connect you all together? Because I think you would have some great ideas. But the second thing is the person's going to leave, because if it happens enough and there's cause for that person to, leave, they're going to leave, because basically we're not on the same page anymore philosophically with where our school is going. And I want you to be successful. But if it comes at the expense of our students, then that's not success.
Yeah.
The third thing that I think is the most harmful, and this happens a lot to school leaders, depending on where we are in the districts, we get moved sometimes, right? So sometimes we give a level of impact and then we're changing schools and the people are still there. That also happens. But the main thing is, how can we have a high level of impact when we're in the school every day, right? How can we continue to model, and how can we continue to name what needs to be changed with when we see practices that are harmful for kids? Because sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it's repeated. So that shares that there's something else going on that we need to address.
I was having a one-on-one conversation with somebody this week on this, and it was one-on-one. It was someone I felt comfortable in having the conversation. So my language, and I'll use it this way, my language was colorful, right? Well, yeah, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And what I was saying was that as leader, I'm going to, and I think I'm essentially saying what you said, just the Kafele way, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to present myself in a way that you understand that, and I'm gonna use the word play with, and then you could think about the colorful way I said it, that you can't play with me, right? As leader. So in other words, if I've set a certain tone here, and I've let you know what my objective is, but also what my agenda is, right? Because it's not my agenda as a teacher and a principal did not start in the school building, did not start in my classroom. It came from the streets, right? So I'm bringing that along with me into the classroom. I'm bringing that along with me into the school. So I brought this spirit of advocacy and activism with me. So I'm going to set that stage and that tone that folks understand. You can't come in here playing with me. Right. I'm very serious about what we're trying to accomplish here. And so with Bobby, with that question, so now that one that wants to bring that nonsense, they're going to think about it 2 and 3 times, because they know that they gotta lock eyes with me at some point, right? And I think I'm not there now, and it's been years, but I think I was very successful with that people understood. Oh, we see who he is, what he is, what he's about, and we can't play those games here. Doesn't mean, because I don't want to give the impression to people that don't know me that I was another Joe Clark, because that's not my style, right? But I wasn't soft either. Right, like the motivator part, which people know me for, being inspiring, being motivated. That was me, but I had a serious side with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A side that was, again, coming from outside the walls of the school, that's saying that this school has to impact this community and not the and yeah, I could say and the other way around, assuming we're talking about positive things happening in the community. So now vice versa. But in this discussion, I need this school to impact this community, meaning this is what we're turning out here.
Yeah.
Right? Based on what adults are doing in the building. So now children are going out into their world and they're better, and thereby benefiting an entire neighborhood or community.
Definitely.
Right?
And Principal Kafele, I was just going to add that the main thing is what I heard you say essentially is that the behaviors are not going unchecked. Because if behaviors are going unchecked, it gives the appearance that it is acceptable.
Yeah.
And so the main thing is addressing the concerns.
Yeah.
If you ignore the concerns, they will continue to grow and get higher. So really it is about not letting things go unchecked and making sure that we're documenting, that we have, concrete examples, and that we're having conversations with staff members who, may need some more support.
Yeah.
With supporting kids.
Yep. I love it. Hey, how you on time?
You know me. I block out several hours, so we're good.
Yeah. When I had Nicole Turner last week, and I asked her that off camera,
she's fabulous.
She said to me, "Look, Kafele, we all know you, so we know we got to block out a lot of time."
That's correct. I don't have something till 2 or 3 o'clock. I'm good.
so hey, fam out there, listen. It's some things coming up in these comments, and they need to be addressed. And I don't mean like trolling or anything. It's just things that. So hey, fam, stay here.
Yes.
Stay here.
Let's stay together. Keep engaging.
Game until tonight, right? So stay here, y'all.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
It's I gotta get closer to be able to see the name now. Munta Hussein said, "Thank you for sharing. My question is, how do you deal with a leader who is a bully and only respond to those they favor? I guess you said heard. I heard about people leaving because of this leader. So I'm going to toss this over to Dr. Edoho Eket, and then I'm going to come back and give my own thoughts. That's why I asked how your time is, and to the fam.
Yeah.
I mean, if y'all asking questions, I don't want to see it and pretend I don't. Right? If you're gonna ask questions, and I want us to respond to them. So stick around. Stick around. It's a beautiful July day. Maybe in some parts of the world, is the world, because we got people internationally. It's not as beautiful, but stay here, y'all. This is the most beautiful place to be right now.
Yes,
right?
It is.
Go ahead. You dive in on that one first.
This one's a tough one, and I just want to say to anyone, teachers on the call, or even administrators have been in this position as well, who have experienced this. This is really hard. I'm going to preface it by saying I've had wonderful leaders, both as a teacher and my colleagues. I have not experienced bullying. I just want to preface by saying that. But there are people who will favor people, and I think that's also very challenging, because I don't think that leaders necessarily mean to do it. But if I were to ask people on this call, do you have your go-to people? I bet each of us can name 5 go-to, or maybe even 3 go-to people, right, in our buildings. And just to be clear, everybody in the building knows who your go-to people are too. Mm-hmm. And if they're not in that group, it doesn't feel good. So one of the things that I try to think about, and this is not exactly answering the question, but I'll get there. As a leader, how often am I only tapping into my leadership team versus the rest of the school? And what I found is the more times that I've asked the whole school for feedback, be it in teams, individually, or in surveys on the whole, I tend to get more responses and more things to consider as we're making decisions as a leadership team. So if you're someone on the call as a leader who knows you have your tight group of people, I'm asking that you really think about how can you expand that group just a little bit, so that people like Muhanta do not feel like they're on the outs. Because when you feel like you're on the outs, that's not a good place to be, and people will leave. So my question is, how do you deal with the leader who's a bully and only respond to those? a couple of things. I know it would be intimidating, but I feel like leaders have blind spots. We all do. And so if you have a level of relationship with the principal, you may want to just say, I would love to contribute to this initiative, or I want to contribute to that. Is there a way that I can get on this committee? Can you include me? Can I share some of my thoughts and processes? But I know that that's not always the case. That would be like more in an ideal setting where you could talk with someone directly. But I do think we need to have some, if you're in this position and you know you have something to contribute and you haven't been given that opportunity, I'm someone who believes in options. And so if where you are is not serving who you want to grow into or at this time, and it's more detrimental than helpful, I think you should also consider other schools, other ways that you can provide an impact in a different environment. That's what I would say if like option one is not really realistic for you. What do you think, Principal Kafele?
Yeah, I love everything you said, and let's start with where you just left off. If I'm teacher and I'm in the building with a bully, right? And principals out there, remember, and assistant principals out there, administrators, sometimes a bully doesn't realize that they are a bully. Or sometimes a leader could feel, no, I'm firm, but it's being received or interpreted as bullying. So it doesn't have to necessarily be bullying that's occurring. It could be just like I was saying before, that I can't have people playing with my kids. They're playing with me and therefore playing with my kids. So that may come across to someone that doesn't understand me as bullying, whereas the one that understands me, no, he's not a bully at all. He's the most friendly guy I've ever met. But he's just serious about his work. He's serious about the lives of these children. So the interpretation, right? So there first, we got to interpret really what's happening. So as we look at it, through our adult eyes and conclude, no, this is bullying. Like this is some serious intimidation. Well, ultimately, as Dr. Edoho Eket just said, I always say Rachel Edoho, right? So as
that's fine.
Yeah. So as Dr. Edoho Eket said, that's not the environment for me, because as an adult, as a fellow adult, you're not going to treat me that way. Right. So I'm gonna go to what Dr. Edoho Eket said first. I'm gonna start seeing what's out there for me. That's, so I'll put that out there as a number one. But now let me go to my real response, right? That was my responsible response, right? But here's another one. I'm an adult in the school. I'm the teacher, and I'm the one that's I'm you, Muntai. I feel like I'm being bullied. Well, but at the end of the day, I'm an adult just like you. The principal is an adult, but you just have a position in leadership, that type of thing. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to schedule a conversation. We're gonna have a conversation, and I'm not gonna go in there trying to be bossy and confrontational, any of that kind of thing. I'm gonna go in there reserved, measured. And in fact, if I am intimidated by this person, then I'm gonna spend some time at home by myself or with a partner, and I'm gonna rehearse, right? I mean, I can't rehearse the entire conversation because I don't know what the responses are gonna be. But in terms of how I initiate conversation, I'm gonna go in there fully prepared. It's just like going into a job interview. You're not gonna go in there cold, like a cold call. You're gonna go in there fully prepared for what questions may come your way and how you may want to initiate conversation if you get to open up the meeting, because some interviews you can, right? So I'm going to go in there fully prepared to say what I need to say about the fact that I don't feel comfortable in my situation with you. My wording might be a little different. My energy, as opposed to what I'm expressing on this camera right now, will be very different, right? So I'm not modeling for you. Right, I'm just telling you what I would do. In order for me to model for you, I gotta bring my energy down, like
yes.
And I'm up.
Don't come in hot, like that.
I'm not modeling, right? So no, don't come in like me. This is just where I am right now, and I think I'm gonna stay here, right? So that, but also maybe there's a need to talk to your building rep if you have a union.
Yeah.
right? So you know, you certainly, that's what they're there for. That's what your dues go there for, right? So you talk to them as well. But no adult should have to be in a situation like that, right? So have the conversation. The principal may not even realize that this is happening, right? Now let me talk to the principals out there. Principal, especially about the second part of the question, and only respond to those they favor. Listen, principal, if you have an inner circle, which I have to believe most of us do, I know I had one, but you have to do, you've got to put forth as much effort as humanly possible to make it clear to staff that you do not have an inner circle, right? Like I had people that I just leaned on, man. They were so compatible with who I am as a man, right? So I can talk to them. I can talk to them about decisions I'm getting ready to make, that type of thing. But I never would say to them, you part of my circle. I would never say that. And I would never put myself in situations where there was a perception that they were part of my circle, right?
Yes.
But I knew that there were folks in that building. I knew that they would run through a brick wall for me. I knew that they had my back. I knew that if something went awry, that they're going to be there for me. I knew that, but I didn't have to tell them that I knew that. I hope you hear me. I hope you hear me.
There's an important distinction.
Yeah. I didn't have to tell them that. How they phrase it, things that are known don't have to be spoken, something like that, right? So we didn't have that conversation ever. So, but the bottom line, Muntai, is to have a conversation. Have a conversation, because it could be a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes when a teacher has a conversation with a principal, sometimes that's an eye opener for the principal. I've had teachers confront me. I don't mind saying this because it's
me too.
Real life. It's like we're really human beings. And I've had teachers confront me and in a very polite way tell me about myself. Right?
Oh yes.
In a very
absolutely.
Yeah. So
you can't be in this role without that happening. I can tell you that. And you better have thick skin.
Yeah, you got to have thick skin, especially when they're older than you. I mean, when I started, I was the youngest principal in the district, you know, so I'm one of the youngest people in the school, you know, so I was still in my 30s.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that, you know, so sometimes people might see how you move and they may want to say something, but they say it so politely. So now you got to hold up your mirror and you got to ask yourself, man, maybe they were right about, you know, whatever it was. Right. And then, you know, then you grow from it. You got older teachers, elder teachers in the building who have so much wisdom.
Yes.
So much experience. Here come your young butt. You weren't even born when they became teachers, right? And now you in there thinking you know it all, and then you got this late 60s or early 70s-year-old teacher in there who come to you. Let me talk to you, right? And I had that. I'm 30-something. Here come the 70-something-year-old teacher want to talk to me about me, but being so polite, like motherly like.
And that's the care. And they care. In other words, if they didn't care, they would not have done that.
That's right.
That's something
that's
to remember. That's love. And that's how I view it. That's love. If I'm getting feedback, that means we have a level of a relationship where you are comfortable coming to me to tell me about myself. That's what it is.
That's right. We go in there, man. Back in that era, we all watched Joe Clark, baby. Back in that era, we quoting stuff, man. Sam's, don't you smoke crack, right? So we quoting. So now we bringing that to the school because that's what we knew back in them days, right? So now you find out, okay, that worked with Joe Clark, and quiet as it kept. You talk to people from Patterson, New Jersey, they'll tell you, no, it ain't always worked, right? So because that was a Hollywood movie, that wasn't really the way it went down. But I digress, right? So so the bottom line again is the conversation that matters, right? And for the principal, the bottom line is to look at self. And are there adjustments I need to make as it relates to my staff? Because if you got one staff member saying that you're a bully, then that one staff member might be talking to multiple other staff members, right? And now you got a whole staff that's looking at you side-eye, and they're not with you the way you think they're with you, because there's some undercurrents there that you're not aware of. these all these are dynamics of principal leadership, man. It's just so much with this. It's
complex.
That's why the consultants will never go out of business, because there's so much to discuss as it relates to principal leadership.
It's a complex job, very complex.
Complex. Hey fam, y'all still with us, man?
I say, who's still here?
I mean, the numbers are particularly high. I see the collective numbers.
Okay.
So it's of all 4 platforms, they're significantly higher than normal.
Oh, so, wonderful. Oh, good.
Yeah. So y'all are rocking with us, man. Yeah, y'all came to see Dr. Edoho Eket.
Thank you, everybody. I love it. So thankful.
Yeah, hey y'all. So we got that last pillar, which was connection yes. over compliance. I gotta read one more piece to you. This one's short. Imagine walking into a room where people light up the moment you enter. They don't just clock in, they're excited to be there because they feel seen and valued. That's the magic of connection over compliance. It's not about enforcing rules from above, but building relationships based on respect, trust, and authenticity. Think about a time you worked for someone who treated you like another machine cog. Now think about the leader who took the time to understand you, your challenges, goals, and dreams. Which one would you follow? With more enthusiasm. Investing in your team creates culture where everyone feels appreciated and motivated to do their best. Another powerful paragraph there. My question to you is just one. Talk to us about building connection. Talk to us about the significance of connection over compliance.
This is the one that I think is so critically important, and it's the one that takes the most time. And that's the one that can be challenging. And it's that building connections with people. It's understanding that, when somebody is having, like, let's say someone has a lesson that's not the best, or they have late in turning in, something. This is an example that I had was we had a teacher years ago who was late in turning in work. And that was so not like this person. I could have easily written an email that said, you are 3 days behind. This needs to be turned in, which is something that a lot of leaders might do because it's simple, it's documenting, and it gets the job done. But when you're talking about people, we have to slow down and we have to humanize that process. So instead of the email, I walked down to the teacher and said, hey, this isn't like you. You always have your things in on time. Is there something going on? We found out that the spouse was very ill and they were trying to hold everything together. But of course, some things started slipping through the cracks. And so my next question was not about judgment. It was, what can we do to help you? What do you need right now? Do you need a meal train? Do you need an extension? And we just started asking my AP and I, what do you need? And sometimes people cannot articulate what they need at the time. So then we just say, hey, here are some options. Would any of these things help you right now? And they say, yes, I definitely need an extension. I'll have it done in 2 more days. Give me a little bit of time. And I don't want to put any pressure on you, but it would be nice to have some help with dinner. Yeah. And so we just mobilized, got on emails, started saying, hey, this person needs support. Who can help? And the outpouring was amazing. But just think about those 2 situations. You had someone behind on their work. I could have just sent the email to document this is late, but I would have missed out on learning so much more about what the actual root was.
Yeah.
So our work in connection is about slowing down and understanding that we're people first. We're teachers second. That there are things going on in people's lives that have nothing to do with school. And yes, we all have jobs to do. We as school leaders have jobs to do. And we also have things that are happening in our private lives.
That's right.
And so if we can work from that lens of empathy, from that lens of getting to know someone outside of school, like I'm a big fan of like real quirky shows like The Office, but I'm also very big in reality TV. If I find out you're into reality TV, we're going to be friends because we're going to be talking about and debriefing some of these episodes. So there are many different ways to build connections with people. But similar to the last question, you cannot just favor your group. You have to make sure you are taking efforts to see other people in your buildings. And here's one thing that I learned, a pattern about myself in reflection. I always came in the morning and walked the same way through the building. I would always turn and start walking down a particular hallway. And that meant there were people who saw me every single day. But by the time something popped off, I hadn't made my way to the back of the building. So there were times where I did not see the other half of the school. So I started to say, let me start on a different walking pathway from the back to the front, so that I made sure that I had made those connections with all of the staff. So those are some of the tweaks that we can make in our leadership that make a difference for everyone in the building. So I encourage leaders to do that.
Powerful stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Listen, before I go any further, there's a gentleman that just popped up recently. I hope you're still there, El Monty, because I got to talk about you. Young man by the name of El Monty, middle initial S, Viney. El Monty Viney. He was on this platform about maybe a year ago, and I had one of those very emotional monologues and cried and yelled and screamed, and he was there waiting patiently for me to do a 30-minute monologue about an incident that happened in Memphis. So since then, last week he was appointed. He was dean of students at the time of that he was on here in a town called Piscataway High School. But now he was appointed assistant principal last week of Orange High School in Orange, New Jersey. So he's family of this platform. He's been a guest on this platform. I hope you're still there, El Monty. El Monty, if you are, let me know. Just say I'm here, or you just wrote it. I'm here. So y'all, I need y'all to give my brother El Monty. He's a Jersey City guy, which is where he's from. He lives in another town now, but he's a product of Jersey City. Give him some love with them emojis, y'all. He is stepping into a new realm as assistant principal at Orange High School in Orange, New Jersey. Throw them emojis of applause at him, please. Keep them coming. I see him. Oh man, thank you, y'all. Keep them coming, because that's what we need, man. We need love. We need love, right? These positions are challenging.
Yes, they are.
We got support and love from fam, and he's fam of this platform, right? So keep them emojis coming, y'all, because he's stepping into a new realm. He's been dean of students, and then he was a teacher extraordinaire, and then president of the Kappa League, and working with young people nationally. But now here he is in this administrative role, and probably supervising adults for the first time. So that's something very different.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because it's one thing to work with the young people. It's one thing to advise adults, but it's another thing to evaluate them.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So, he's stepping into a new realm, but he already knows that he got me, because I told him, I said,
awesome.
You got me, man. Just reach out. You got me, right? So, I see all the love. So, we got to do that, man. We got to do that for the fam, man. Yep. He said, we are all we got. That's right. We all we got.
Yeah, that's why this platform is so important.
Yeah, stay with the platform. Stay with the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
And certainly you and I, we be rapping all the way through. And he's got a powerful superintendent who was also on this platform, Dr. Gerald Fitzhugh.
Nice.
He was on here with two other superintendents here in Jersey. So he's in a great place, man.
Good.
All right, let's get back to it. We write at the talking points, and you probably, the first one, I know you probably exhausted. Let me put them on the screen. You said every interaction is an opportunity to build trust or diminish it, and trust is built through consistency in the smallest moments. Is there anything else you want to add to that one?
Yeah, I want to lift up one of probably the most important relationally intelligent leaders I ever had was my elementary school principal, Mr. Slacum. And he really has been an inspiration and continues to be a mentor in my life. I'm someone that grew up, had a great childhood. I talked about this a little bit at the National School Leaders Conference around family engagement. I'm someone who had a big brother. I was a latchkey kid. I know I'm dating myself in that, but we had a lot of responsibilities growing up. Both of my parents worked outside of the home to provide us with a great upbringing. And then my parents began to experience some marriage challenges. And our life changed dramatically as a result of that. You and I share this in common, Principal Kafele, and I know we've talked about this, but I am a child who witnessed abuse in my home. And when you are growing up and you see and hear things that you know are not right, it's hard. And so I went on just to share how my mom became a single mom. Shout out to my mom because she's on the call today as well. Our circumstances changed. I'm someone who grew up going to food banks. I'm someone who grew up having to do winter coat drives, and I was on free and reduced meals. And it was obvious that I was different from my friends because they were paying with $2 bills and I was paying with 40 cents. And years later, I went to a training on adverse childhood experiences, and ACEs is what they're called for short. And ACEs are very highly researched. It says that if you've had a certain number of ACEs, the higher the amount that you grew up with, then the higher the outcome is that you will have negative outcomes later in your life. This is well researched. And so when I'm talking with school leaders about the importance of our role, I think about Mr. Slacum first. I think about being the girl who was worried about my mom, who was worried about our family. And every morning he would greet me at the door and say, Rachel, how are you doing? How is your big brother? How is he? But the most important question he asked me is, how's your mom? How is she doing? Let her know I'm thinking about her. Every single day he asked me those questions. And it was because of his check-ins that school became that stable source for me when there was a lot of instability at home. And I think a lot of our children are experiencing this. They are growing up with some challenges. And our role as school leaders and as educators is to be there for those students. It's the simple things that make a difference. And so research on adverse childhood experiences is very clear that access to just one trusted adult can change the trajectory of a child's life. And for me, that was my principal, Mr. Slacum. And so as you're thinking about going into the new school year, I know we have all these plans for school improvement. I know we have all of these plans for meetings. Remember the students first. Yeah. Remember the people that are right in front of you. Because some of our students are really challenged. They're challenged right now, and they may come in challenged to start the school year. And they're relying on us as that trusted adult. And so I just want to encourage everyone on the call to continue to make that difference for each of the children that we're serving. Because in a couple of years, 20, 30 years later, people will be mentioning your name, just like I'm mentioning Mr. Slacum as someone who was a difference maker for me. And many others, right? I had amazing coaches growing up. I had several people to stand the gap for me when I needed it. And I just want to encourage us as school leaders to keep standing in those gaps for kids.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Let's go to this second one. You said leading with relational intelligence requires setting boundaries because sustainable leaders care deeply for others and themselves too. That's important. Go ahead. What are you saying to us?
I have a lot to say about this. I'm someone who was a new principal during COVID-19, right when it started. So shout out to any school leaders who are also leading through the pandemic. We know that a lot of educators left during that time, and there's no judgment there. They made decisions that were best for them. Yeah. But I'm thankful for every leader who stayed in education so that we're continuing to serve. But we stayed through some pretty tough times. And I will be 100% authentic in sharing that that was probably the hardest time professionally and personally in my life. I remember my kids at the time, our twins were in 3rd grade when the pandemic started. So they were learning virtual school and I was being that virtual principal. And my day was pretty consistent in the fact that I would wake up at 6 a.m., start answering emails. I would make breakfast for my kids and lock myself away in the guest room, continuing answering emails. 6 o'clock came for dinner, lunchtime dinner. I would make those, lock myself away. And I would stay up till all night emailing staff just for the next day, right? You're building that plane as you go along. And when I look back at that time, that was not a good way to live. It wasn't good for my marriage. It wasn't good for my children. And it wasn't really good for my coworkers either, because I was always bothering them about something that needed to be done. So I was also impacting their personal lives. And I got to the point where I said at that time, I cannot do this anymore. I don't have the skill set to be the principal. I'm going to quit. And I went off and went on interviews. And I tell principals all the time, we have a lot of transferable skills. And so I remember getting a job offer and signing on that line. I said, I'm done. But I could not sleep at night. I knew something was wrong. I still wanted to serve students. That's at my heart. That's in my core. But I knew I could not keep doing it in the same way because I was going to burn myself out. And so that was the first time I entered therapy. And anyone who knows my story knows I talk a lot about therapy because as someone who never accessed it, I needed it. I needed to talk with someone who was independent of my family, who was independent of my colleagues and my work, who did not know me. And I remember her saying to me, Rachel, tell me what your day looks like. And I told her everything that I just told you. I went down, this is what my day looks like. And she said, are you eating and are you sleeping? And the answers to both of those questions were no. And no one can make good decisions when you are hangry, when you are tired, you're not thinking clearly. And so I said, I will promise for the next 2 weeks, that was my goal for the 2 weeks, eat on a regular schedule and go to bed at a normal time and see how you feel.
Yeah.
I came back 2 weeks later with a new mindset. I said, I'm going to stay in this work, but I have to do it differently. I have to do it with boundaries because I'm not willing to leave. And I tell leaders all the time, if every person on this call today quit tomorrow, who would be left to serve our students?
Yeah.
Who would be there? And so sustainability is not just about I'm taking care of myself, I'm being selfish. It's the opposite. Sustainability says I care enough about this work to come to work with a sound body and a sound mind for the students and for our staff and the families that we're serving. So one of the things I just wanted to lift up today is, what are the boundaries that you are keeping as leaders? And if you don't have any, you need to start. Yeah. We have dedicated chapter 9 to boundaries because it's that important, an entire chapter on ideas that you can do. And I'll just add very quickly, audits. Do an audit of your time. That's something I had to do. How much are you working off the clock for work? And if it's out of balance, start pulling it back. The first boundary I ever did was leaving work at 4:30 after the school day ended. Once I knew all the kids were on the bus, I had to go home because that was time for my family and time for my friends. And so I just encourage you. I know it's a lot of guilt. We feel a lot of pressure all the time to be everything, everywhere, all the time. But that comes at an expense. And so I tell leaders, you can be good at home and you can be good at school, but you have to have boundaries to make it happen.
Yeah. Y'all hear that? Boundaries. Took me a while. I think I grew into it a little bit. I'm probably not where I need to be because I just want to be so accessible to the world in terms of just, the brand I've created.
Sure.
As a presenter, but I had to impose some boundaries as well. I had to learn how to say no.
That's the one.
Because, like, for example, the volume, I like writing forwards, right? I enjoy it. But the volume of people who were asking me to write forwards, then I might as well write another book because it was that much, just so many people. I've never had a forward in any book I've ever written. And so I've always wondered why they matter, because I've never had them. So I just write my own intro and everything is me. But anyway, I've learned, an endorsement is only about a sentence or two, 3, max 3, right? But the volume that I was receiving,
right?
Like I got 20 people waiting for an endorsement.
And then you have to read the books to be able to do an authentic endorsement.
Yeah, or at least read a good summary of the book.
Yes.
And hope that the book is a good book. That's now you talk about risk taking.
Yeah. Because you're putting your name on it.
Yeah, it's not really what you thought it was, So Yeah, so just even emails, man. It's you know, because when I'm on the road like that, when I'm on it heavy, I'm still trying to stay on top of all those emails. And I had to get to a point where I said, no, no, you have to go to sleep, right?
Yeah,
This stuff will be there. You know,
it will.
of course it'll be there, but it'll be more of it. But when I get home, I'll just block out some time. Okay, this is gonna be email time, and
Yeah.
then, we'll do it that way. But
And
yeah,
we talk about that in the book, same thing. Like we have a lot of strategies that are practical for school leaders. And one of them is blocking your calendar 4 times. I do that right now. I will block an hour, or not even an hour, really 30 minutes, where I'm checking emails in the morning. And then I block 30 minutes in the afternoon so
yeah,
that I can at least take the edge off, right? So
yeah,
it's not going to clear the entire email. But a lot of times as principals and APs, we're just CC'd on stuff. It's not something that we always have to respond to. So it does help to put that time on your calendar without feeling guilty. There have been times I had to say to my principal secretary, I am unavailable for the hour. I promise you I will be back, but I do need to spend concentrated time working on something.
yeah,
And so after that hour is up, I'm right back out. Y'all know I don't spend time in my office unless I'm truly working on something important. But the flip side is if I wait and I have to do it at home, that takes away time from my family. And just
yeah.
like you said, Principal Kafele, that work, those emails are always going to be there.
That's
But
right.
our families are not guaranteed to be there.
Yeah,
Our friends are not. So we've got to figure out that priority system.
that's right. Priority system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just didn't learn about email. Yeah, that's right. That's our running joke. Sergio Vanni, the author of these instructional leadership books, and it's so much that we didn't learn in those books or in those grad classes.
Sure.
The real learning took place on.
This is the real learning on
Yeah,
the job, like you
that's right.
said.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
And I know between you and all the other guests, there's so much shared on the platform, all 4 of our platforms, that are not showing up in grad school. Because all of us have done this work. If you're a guest on my
That's the
platform, you've
truth.
done this work, right? So so we have those experiences as well. Good stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
y'all, we got one more, and then we wrap it up. Right. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It's 1:12, right?
Yes.
Here we go.
Thank you for
Elite
staying.
Eastern Time. That's right. Numbers still looking good. In fact, they increased from the last time I said it. So y'all,
I love it.
y'all are here. The greatest legacy of a school leader is found in the lives of the people who are better off because you chose to invest in them. That is a powerful way to close us out. What are you saying?
Thank you. I'm someone who is big on legacy. I talk about my grandmother's legacy. She taught in Baltimore City public school system for 32 years. I'm still chasing her legacy and just what she left for us and our family. And like I said earlier when I started this conversation around who have you helped today? That's something that's a big part of my purpose. And even when my children were young, I would say to them, most parents would say things like, what did you learn in school today? And the children will say, nothing, that sort of thing. My question for my twins consistently was, who did you help today? And they would tell me the best stories. Mommy, I helped a student who needed help at lunchtime. They would tell me these stories when they were younger. And that was a way that I could continue in those conversations. I love that you stepped up and took initiative to help this person. They probably think you are a great friend, So my question for school leaders is always, who did you help today? Because this job is so demanding. Is just requires so much mental energy to do it well. At the end of every day, there could be some real foolishness that happened that day. I will just reflect and sit in the car and say, Rachel, who did you help? And I will have many examples. If I helped a child tie their shoes, that counts. If I help connect one teacher to another teacher for a coaching opportunity, that also counts. Yeah. If I connected a family to a resource, that helps, right? So ultimately, I think our jobs are centered in that legacy of supporting and helping. And I have just 2 examples. One of them, a couple of years ago, there was a teacher, a pre-teacher. She was interviewing for a position. And I read her resume. I knew she was strong and I was excited for that interview. She came on there and laid a full egg, right? She didn't talk about her experiences. She didn't really highlight what she would bring to a school. And so I did something I had never done before. I hired somebody else, but I called that candidate and I emailed the candidate at first and I said, I just want to thank you for your time. I would like to give you some feedback if you're open to hearing some things that I think will help you. And she said, I absolutely want the feedback. Mm-hmm. So I called her up and I said, I went line by line. Here are some things that you said, and I'm looking at your resume and you missed all of these things. You've got to do that, right? So I gave her some coaching, and don't you know, a couple of weeks later, she came back. She said, number one, I never had anybody, a principal, ever call me to provide a level of feedback. But number two, I got a job. Wow. I got the job. And so those are things when I look back over time, people remember that. I didn't even hire this person, but I knew they had what it took. But they were not going to get a job if they continued sort of in that way. Just that coaching was important. And another thing that I want to highlight was I had an opportunity this summer to speak on the main stage at ISTE, ASCD. And I talked about one of my favorite students, her name is Salima. And I talked about how as her kindergarten teacher, you know, Salima was so quiet. And when I say quiet as a mouse, I mean, quiet as a mouse. This is bad practice. You know, I used to call on kids. You knew they knew the answer, but be those kind of cold calls. I did that to Salima all the time. She always knew the answers, but, you know, she just had that, she just was a little bit intimidated in the environment. And over time, I watched Salima kind of learn her strengths. That's what I was talking about during the talk. She learned about her strengths, and she learned that she was a collaborator. She learned that she was a caring person. She learned all these things about herself. And years later, I got back in contact with Salima, and she had graduated college with honors. And her mother also shared that she was starting law school. Wow. And Salima and I are like this. And so, you know, what's really special about her story now is that she's in law school, but she's doing she's an internship with the Innocence Project. So she's using her voice to advocate for people who are wrongly convicted. And when I think about Salima as a quiet kindergartner, and I think about her now and her work in being a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, and working to solidify freedom for people, that is so inspiring to me. Yeah. So I think a part of our legacy as school leaders and as teachers are all of the people that we've helped along the way and has helped us along the way.
That's right.
So really, I'm just such an honor to tell her story.
Yeah, and I got to see the video, and good stuff.
Thank you for watching.
Oh yeah. Listen, we're at the close, family. But before I close and we applaud our guests, I just want to read this statement again. The greatest legacy. I want to read it slow and put emphasis on certain words. The greatest legacy. That's the first emphasis of a school leader is found in the lives of the people who are better off because you chose to invest in them. See, in other words, I've never done this before, closed out and then went back to the final talking point. But just take a look at that, y'all. That first part, the greatest legacy, because you know we talk legacy all the time. The greatest legacy, you know, in sports we talk about what's this athlete's legacy going to be? You know, who are we talking about right now? Bron, right? Philadelphia 76ers. What's his legacy going to be? So that's all sports fans are debating that right now in real time. There's a million videos on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So let's go to that word. The principal's legacy. What's your legacy? Right? And to me, it's summed up in number 3 here. The greatest legacy, the greatest of a school leader is found in the lives of the people who are better off because you chose to invest in them. So here's the scenario, y'all. So you were principal of some youngster in 2026, but in 2056, they find you, right? Hear me. 2056, they find you. If there was unfortunate transition, then they find someone that knew you or family, whatever. And they say, I am not the success story that I am today if I didn't have you in my life. You shifted my trajectory. You changed my narrative. And had you not been there and believed in me, and to use that word on the screen, and invested in me, woo, I don't know who I'd be. That's the real legacy, fam.
Yeah.
You could talk about your test scores, they real high, and all that stuff. The AI program you got going on, the robotics program you got going on, and the athletic programs, the extracurricular all that stuff. But the real legacy is when that adult who held on to you for the next 30 years, right? The next 40 years, it held on to you. You last time you saw that youngster was like 10 years old. And that youngster hung on to you, and you didn't even know about it for the next 20, 30, 40 years, and felt compelled, let me let you know. That's legacy.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our work. I like that you said you didn't even know, because that happens too. Years later, sometimes we've impacted people and we didn't even know the extent of it. In our minds, we say, oh, well, was checking in on you. Like if I asked Mr. Slacum, if I were to say to him, and you have been such an instrumental part of my leadership. I am literally your legacy, a part of your legacy. For him, that's just who he is. He would downplay it and just say, I just love you. That's just the type of person he is. But that impact is real. The impact we have is real. And so continue to make that impact, no matter what is going on around you. No matter what, make the impact.
Make the impact. Josh called it the invisible paycheck.
I love that.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, folks, let's close it out. I see y'all already got them emojis coming, but those of you that didn't know that this is what we do, if today's session with Dr. Rachel Edoho Eket was good, if it was informative, if it was useful, if you could infuse things you heard today into your leadership, into your practice, then let us know. This is one of the reasons we go on the Zoom on those first Saturdays. Let her know by way of emojis, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, let her know. Keep them coming. Y'all already started, but keep those emojis coming. Let's celebrate our guest today, as I'm doing. And let me get my favorite emoji. So I call it my Louisville.
So I get the full bat. That's good. I had the travel bat over the years.
Oh, yeah, I got the travel. Yeah, you got the travel one before.
Yeah.
But it's the real Louisville Slugger, given to me by Jefferson County in Louisville, Kentucky. Bam! Hit it out the park. I'm rocking the Newark Eagles, starring Larry Doby, and second African American to go to the major leagues, behind Jackie Robinson. And just good stuff.
Wow.
You hit it out the park.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, I see those emojis, y'all. Ooh, that's a whole lot of them too, man. Keep them coming, man. This was a great session. Hey, hey, Doc. I should have done this halfway through, but I guess I got so caught up into the session, but I'll do it now. How do the folks reach out to you so that they can invite you to come in and do some speaking, do some consulting, and get your books and all that good stuff?
Yes. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here for a fourth time. This is like my Super Bowl. I told my husband I'm going to bed early. I'm getting ready. I'm just so appreciative of you, Principal Kafele, and just the way you have invested in me. Really, truly.
I appreciate you.
I'm so thankful for you and your influence. And I want to thank the audience as well for hanging with us for this amount of time today. We really hope that you're walking away with something that you can use in a very authentic way. the easiest way to get in contact with me is to go on my website, RachelEdohoEket.com. Or if you look right here on the screen, you can find me at Rachel Edoho Eket across all my socials like Instagram, LinkedIn, X. I'm across all those socials. And I'm really looking forward to staying connected. And yes, I would love an opportunity to come and meet you and your wonderful staff in person. That would be amazing.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. So reach out to her, y'all. She's out here doing her thing, but she still got her day job.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And we're preparing for a wonderful school year. We're excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, fam, stay there when I go off.
Sure.
Let me close us out real quick. I appreciate you all for being here. As I say every week, appreciate you. There's a million things you could be doing on a Saturday morning. As they would say in the Baptist church, glad you don't see it robbery to be here with us on a Saturday, or those who are going to watch this later on, because the overwhelming bulk of the people who watch the AP and New Principals Academy have not seen this session yet. That's just the way it works. This is just the folks who can tune in live for whatever the reason. But the overwhelming majority of the folks, they haven't seen it yet. They'll see it throughout the course of today, tomorrow, and all of next week. That's how it works. So with that being said, hey fam, next Saturday, join me. It's first Saturday, I think. Yeah, first Saturday, August 1st. I'm going solo, right? Going solo. My topic is, I'm a little tired, y'all. We've been on here 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Community engagement through the lens of the leadership. So you'll remember last first Saturday, I did parental. It was supposed to be parental and community engagement, but I got so wrapped up into the parental, I never got to the community. So this is going to be called community engagement through the lens of the leadership. This is an important session because you're not an island unto yourself. You're a piece of a larger community. So the question becomes, how are we tapping into that larger, broader community out there so that it's a win-win? We benefit the community and the community benefits us. That's what I'm going to spend about 90 minutes talking about next week. So join me next Saturday, 3/27, Solo Saturday, as we talk about you and the community. Next Saturday, also, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock, followed by Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor at 10:30, followed by us, AP New Principals Academy, no guests, just me. And then, and that's at 11. And then over to Sunday, Principal Josh Tovar, Dr. Madi Moreno, PGP podcast. Josh, hey, y'all hang tight for a second. Josh sent me this beautiful cap, and he's like, when you gonna rock it on the plane or something, man? I'm rocking it right here, right?
And I have my shirt too.
Yeah, and I got the shirt. When I don't wear my hats in outside in the summer when it's hot like this, because it could be a problem with the complexion and the tan, right? You see, if I rock my hats, then I take it off, my head will be lighter than my face. So I try not to wear hats outdoors in the summer. I wear them here. So I rock hats in the fall when I'm outside. But when you see me outside, you don't see me with no hat on, right? That's I gotta be even. I know that
makes sense.
But it probably sounds crazy at the same time, y'all. But don't worry about it. but I say all that to say, PGP podcast Sunday at 6 o'clock. There's Josh. Let me put that on the screen. Tomorrow, financial pathway for educators. That sounds like a big one. If I'm on the airplane at that time and I got Wi-Fi, I'll be tuning in. I don't know what time. I got 2 flights. So I'm sure I'll be in the sky. So check out Josh tomorrow. Josh and Madi, or whomever he has replacing Madi. Madi's probably in Africa. That's where she goes a lot. So yeah, there you go. So he said we look great in the PGP merch, right? Folks, the where we at? Oh man, I feel like I'm rambling. Let's go. If you don't have the 2 books to coincide, let's get Josh off the screen. If you don't have the 2 books to coincide with the platform, what is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise, and Assistant Principal 50. And then we don't want to forget today's book, Relational Intelligence. Get yourself a copy. There you go. And she got the other book, The Principal's Journey.
My old one.
Yep. Don't forget that one as well. The Principal's Journey. Don't forget that one.
Yep.
And
my children's book.
Oh man, you got all that stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Fam, I'm not going to go through the announcement of how to join us on Zoom on first Saturday starting in September 5th. All I'm gonna say is the first hour will be like this, solo me, but the second hour we're switching over to Zoom so that we can engage with one another. But I'm not going to go through that right now. All you can do, go to the intro, just rewind this video or any of the past videos over the past, let's say 6 weeks, and right in the announcements, I talk about how you get that link. Right? I don't want to do it now because it's already on the video. Subscribe to the AP New Principals Academy. Hit the notification bell as well, but make sure you subscribe, folks. Don't just watch. Subscribe. Be a part of that 25,800. Maybe by the time I get off today, it'll say 900, right? So make sure you subscribe and then visit my website at principalkafele.com, and then finally your diet. And I might add, let me just give this quick sermon real quick. We living in some crazy times, y'all. The lettuce seems not to be safe in places, right? So let's make sure that you're taking precautions. And someone like me, I need lettuce, right? It's not a want, it's a need. So I have to figure this out. I physically need lettuce, right? I need my salads. So yeah, we in bad shape with that. There's some other things we in bad shape with, but I promised Rachel I wouldn't be controversial.
You promised. Thank you.
So I'm gonna leave that other to when I'm solo. Right?
Thank you.
Get your exercise in, right? And make sure you are taking your virus precautions. You know, it's a lot of disease out here, a lot of stuff. And to anybody on here, this is not controversial. It's just crazy. Anybody on here that you're like some of these people on these airplanes that I fly with that think it's okay to sneeze and not cover your mouth and cough without covering your mouth. I mean, to watch this, yeah, spinach. Okay, then I thank you, Elmani, if that's going to take care of it for me. I'll take a look at it. And he said, yes. And then other people telling me to kale. Yeah, how about that? It's your local farmers market. Okay, fine, because I need this lettuce, man. I really do. But yeah, folks coughing, they just cough, man. Sneeze, right? Achoo. And I'm like, where's the cover? Where's this? You know, so I just embarrass them. I go right to my bag and I make sure they see me putting that mask on. I'm like, this is for you, buddy. Right? So that's how I do it, you know. So that's my way of saying that's my way of using my colorful language.
Let me put on real slow so you can see.
Yeah, that's my colorful language. Like, all right, y'all. You have a great week. Oh man, I forgot how I word this thing. Have a great week. I don't know how I word it, man. That's how tired I am. It left me. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary. Yeah, I got it. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. There it is. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back all the way. 1, 2, 3. Bam! Y'all know that bam is my word. I see y'all next Saturday, man. I can't wait. Y'all make sure you have an extraordinary week. I don't know why my brain couldn't come up with extraordinary. That's scary. I might have to go to the store and get some. What do you call
need
that?
more spinach, kale, something.
I need some Prevagen.
It's coming back. You got it. You got it. It ain't go anywhere. You good.
All right, y'all. Have a great one.